It said the broadcast is live, so I think it's live.
So
right now.
we are live. Then I'm gotta get the bumper in, right?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, hello everyone. Whoops, I'm not gonna need to play it again. Welcome to Silverline one-on-one. This week we have Aaron Humphres. So,
Yay.
Hello everyone. Hey Aaron, how are you?
Oh, doing good. Glad to be here.
So while we pepper Aaron with a bazillion questions, C. Michael is going to be drawing for us. Hey, C. Michael, how are you this evening?
Hey, I'm good.
Good.
Y'all.
And what will you be drawing on this evening?
I'm gonna be putting together a kind of a rejects roster, trying to
Cool.
do their height. So get the
Very
height
cool
situation. So
sweet. I got to get you the thing I still have left. I got to get you a couple of the villains. I know I teased you the other day with a couple of names.
Just the names give me enough to really kind of start visualizing things.
Yeah. So appreciate you coming on here, and Wubba's already on. Hey Wubba, how are you? Wubba, we're depending on you for some good questions now. So we'll watch you draw while we ask Aaron all kinds of questions. So let me actually welcome everyone. Wubba's kind of beat me on Facebook. Hello everyone. So we are streaming on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. It looks like everything is a go. So yeah, so sometimes we have problems connecting. What was it? Good. He's gonna bring the heat.
He's gonna bring the heat.
I said that. All right, so here we go. We're gonna put C. Michael's art up there. Here we go. And gonna slide C. Michael off, and there we are. So, all right, Aaron. So, if you've seen any of these, you know that I'm going to start at the very beginning.
The very beginning. Okay.
So tell me, what's the first comic books that you can remember?
Strangely enough, I remember the comic that got me in the comics. But I actually do, and
that's my next question, so don't get there yet.
Yeah, one regret. I probably got a Spider-Man, and I think it was like, I remember the first one was like the Spider-Man. It had like Stiltman and like Star-Lord, or it was this guy on fire. I can't remember who he was. But Fire-Lord, maybe that was it.
Yeah,
and
he had like what looked like a Q-tip with fire on both sides.
Yeah, the staff. Yeah,
that's
I thought the guy
Fire-Lord.
was cool.
Yeah.
And then the other one I got was, I actually remember getting the G.I. Joe comic, the infamous one with no words, with Snake Eyes and Cobra. That's where all that, and it was lost to the winds. And everybody talks like, that's the greatest issue. I'm like, I had that, and now it's gone, and I'll never get it back.
Yeah, but you can't appreciate them when you're first getting them.
No,
right?
When you first get them, you're just like, I was just like, ninjas. This is cool.
Yeah, yeah. So where were you? Was this in you? Because you're from Oregon, right?
I'm actually from Washington. So Washington. I know. I'm literally right on the border of Portland, Oregon. So I live in Vancouver, Washington, which is just above. So even if you say I'm from Oregon, it's like, close enough. It's only a few miles off. But yeah, I live in Washington.
Oregon. There's
literally it's across the river. Yeah.
Okay. So it was in Washington. So what was the comic supply like back when you were a kid? What do you remember? How did you get them?
Stores. It was convenience stores. That was where I always saw them. And grocery stores. I went to the rack with my mother to get groceries, and she'd like, I'm going to go look at comics and toys, and because they had actual toy sections, and I would sit in the comics section and read comic books as she was done shopping. Cool. That was like how I got into them as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when we still had the spinner racks, right?
Oh yeah. Spinner racks are great.
Yeah. Because CC's here. He says, "Woot, Marysville here." I guess that's Marysville, Washington, or Oregon one. And Wubba says the Spider-Man comic sounds like a team up book. I agree. I do think it sounds like
was.
Marvel team up.
But it was funny because I didn't get into it because of Spider-Man. I got it into it because of the fire dude. I like
really
dudes on fire. Yeah, that's why as a kid I was like, "Hey, this is cool." And that's what I remember the most.
Okay.
was that guy. Yeah,
So,
I don't know.
so did that make you move over then to say the Fantastic Four? Because
No,
the Human
after I
Torch.
was done with that, I was really into like Saturday morning cartoons and G.I. Joe and Transformers and all that. And I didn't actually start reading comics, actually reading them, because these are comics by my dad when I was a
Okay.
kid. He'd go to the grocery store to pick up we'd walk down from my grandparents' house to this convenience store, which is down the block, and I remember him buying me comics when he would buy whatever at the convenience store. And that's why, but I would mostly look at the pictures and read them, but I didn't actually start reading comics until X-Men. That was an X-Men comic that was given to me by a kid when I was waiting for the bus to go to school. And he gave me, I know the exact issue. It was like, I'm going to say was it 219 or something? It was Havoc was running in some dream sequence, but I remember reading it and opening up, and I saw there was a scene of like Storm and Rogue, and they had like mohawks and chains, and that's what got me invigorated, because I was like, well, these look like all these heavy metal Road Warrior barbarian guys that I'd like, because I like He-Man and stuff, and so I'm like, this doesn't look like superheroes. This looks really different, and that's what intrigued me about it and got me going into it. And at that time, X-Men didn't look like superheroes; they were kind of more like punk rockers that were running around. Yeah, they're really different.
Yeah, they definitely went through that phase. That was probably just post Byrne.
Yeah, it was
John
just
Byrne.
Yeah, it was Claremont coming in, and I think when I got into that, I think the very next issue I picked up was the beginning of the Fall of the Mutants, which is one of my favorite. Yeah, so right around that Byrne, Claremont, Mark Silverstreet era. That's where I got into.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's what we just said. The Silvestri issue, the Australian days.
Yeah, those are some of my all-time favorite issues back then. That's where I really got into it.
Because CC said he's Marysville's Washington. That's where he's from. So
Marysville's Washington. I should probably know where it is. I know where Olympia. I know where Basics. I know what places I've been in Washington are.
You know the big dots on the map? Is that what you're saying?
I know our capital. I know there's some city called Seattle up there, but we try to ignore it.
Eric Dotson says, "Hey, Roland and Aaron." Hey, Eric.
Hey, how's it going?
You might have missed it, but I said, "Hey, bring on the hard questions for Aaron. He needs them. He needs you guys to bring the heat."
Yeah, challenge me.
Yeah, I'm throwing him softballs. You guys need to bring the heat. Yeah. So then it didn't take. Well, so how long was it from, say, like the first Spider-Man that you picked up to the X-Men that you remember? What kind of window was that? Do you know?
Probably about 4 or 5 years.
Wow, that long.
I was in elementary when I got Spider-Man and stuff. I was going into middle school. I think middle school going into high school when I got the X-Men. I started getting into them. And that's when I started. And then from there, I found that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they had a collected edition of the original ones. And again, that was kind of since I watched Saturday morning. If you ever watched Saturday morning cartoons as a kid, I mean, the art and the storylines are so eclectic. You got like barbarians, giant transforming robots. You got Silverhawks, which are silver dudes with flying it. So, I mean, it was just this weird eclectic. And that's what attracted me. And so in comics, it was superheroes a little bit, like I like Ghost Rider and stuff, but it was more like Ninja Turtles, and then I found like Alien Legion, and like, what is this? And Usagi Yojimbo, and so everything weird attracted my attention more than superheroes. The other superhero series I actually did get into was the New Warriors.
Okay,
the original New Warriors, and I still actually have all of them.
And so this was all while you were in going into high school then.
Yeah,
really. I find it kind of a cool but a rare kind of thing that you even mentioned any of the stuff that's not Marvel or DC.
Yeah, the fact that was kind of my big thing was I didn't really I mean, the one comic besides X-Men, and I actually met my friend Tom over a comic called Appleseed, which was done by the guy who did Ghost in the Shell, Matsumune Shiro. This was his first work. And I grew up, I was watching Robotech and Transformers. Have you ever seen Appleseed? It's just like taking that off the stratosphere. It's like this cool sci-fi concept. And I never knew anyone else into it. And when I was in high school, I was talking about it, my friend, and this guy, Tom, who became my friend later on. It's like, you're in the Appleseed. I'm like, I am. We formed this friendship 28 years now over the love for this comic, and we still read the comic every day and stuff. He never finished the series. He was supposed to be 10 volumes. He got halfway through issue volume 5, and then he went on the Ghost in the Shell and then never looked back.
Wow.
But then before that, then I got into like Akira, because I so when my friend showed me this bootleg copy of Akira, then I was just like, what is this? And so I was really kind of more geared towards maybe not so much superheroes, but more like, I guess, the underground scene. There was just some sort of energy there that I really liked. Yeah. But then when I grew up, I really got into like John Byrne's Next Men. I don't know if you remember, not X-Men, this Next. I had all of those, and I was a big fan of Sin City, and I got in. So so I was kind of all over, and I still am. I'm still all over the place with my reading material. I go to the library and check out things. I would just pick up random stuff and read them. Yeah, because anymore nowadays I'm really into studying the craft. So I'll pick up stuff from anyone who looks like they're doing something different or interesting, and I'll read through it. Cool and stuff. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I find it unusual. Usually, you kind of got to make it through high school to kind of figure out that there's anything out there other than Marvel and DC. So it's cool to hear you.
I was a weird one, and my friend and none of my friends who were in the comics, we got into manga and stuff, but I don't remember. I had a friend named Colby who liked Spider-Man, but then like when I was reading Spider-Man, then I found him. He also got into ElfQuest. That got me into ElfQuest, which actually was published at Marvel at the time. So I was very much. I like superheroes. It was in there, but it was a small part of all the stuff that I was into. Yeah.
So the ElfQuest you remember then was in color, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I started buying ElfQuest when it was in black and white.
Yeah, that's when it first started.
Before they went to Marvel.
Right, and
I can't remember the Warp Graphics. I think is what it was, wasn't it?
It was another
Wendy and Richard Penny Warp. Yeah,
and then they went to Marvel, and I can't remember if they were part of the Epic line that was part of Alien Legion, but I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
I remember it, but I don't remember that either.
Yeah, it was weird. I like superheroes. I knew they were there. They were never like high on my radar. I have very eclectic taste than most people. Like I was kind of into Star Wars, but I was like more into Tron. And then when the Predator came out, like I was huge into the Predator, Terminator, Aliens. That was all my jam. Very sort of dark, gritty. To this day, and I feel because a lot of people's like they're all like, yeah, sure, I like Star Wars, enjoy Star Wars, but it's not my first go-to. Which a lot of people like, I still watch them, I enjoy it, but like you put in Predator, Aliens, or Terminator, I mean, like, it's all. Yeah. And then Tron was the other one. Tron literally blew me away when I saw that as a kid. I couldn't figure out how they did that. So
I remember loving Tron too. Don't tell anybody, but I kind of feel the same way about Star Wars. It's like I like it, but and I go see the movies, but it's like it's good. I want to give it credit for what it is. It it was because it was a game changer. But when it when you boil it down to other things that I like, I'm like I like it. But
I like it. And there's a part of me I never could, and I'm sure I have the internet come back at me about this. Like the original Star Wars, I watch it, and the storyline. Like I was like, if this didn't have the visual effects it had when it came out, I don't know if it would be more of a cult classic. I think his leap in visual effects in that film really propelled that to the spotlight, which is fantastic. And I think the two married. The storytelling, the sort of classic storytelling married with the special effects, it really helps them in it. But I think if one was lacking in any of the other, it would not have hit as big as it did.
Yeah, because we've been used to seeing the stuff that looked kind of cheesy. And this was the first thing that looked like legit, So we're like, oh, those can look like real spaceships, like we know what spaceships look like.
Oh yeah, I mean, to this day, I was still amazed at the end scene in Return of the Jedi, how they were having so many TIE fighters flying. When I figured out, I was like, oh, it's just little models. I'm like, how are they doing that? Scene still amazes me to this day, how they were able, because it still looks really amazing. Yeah. So hats off to those old guys, because I can't imagine some of the stuff, I've heard, horror stories. Like, I wreck a model, break a model, blow it up wrong, got to redo the whole thing. Yeah. So, but, that scene was pretty crazy. So it was definitely propelled it more than it should.
Yeah, so Wubba confirms, it's Warp Graphics, and then it was Epic, and then they went back to Warp. And he says, hey, Ovid's here, what's up?
Hey.
And then Wubba says, So we're turned on to Corbin and Heavy. So I think maybe I'm going to interpret here. So were you turned on to Corbin and the heavy metal stuff?
Yeah. Like Corbin. I was really into, like, I like Conan, but I went to like He-Man, even when I was a little kid, it was Masters of the Universe. Then it was Stundaughter Barbarian, which was like, that obscure. Sure. And then it was, and then when I discovered Conan, it was got so sort of sword and fantasy. So heavy metal, when you got, Richard Corbin, I remember seeing Den in the heavy metal movie, and then reaching Richard Corbin in heavy metal and reading all those magazines.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, some cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
It was. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I remember I didn't get heavy metal. I knew what it was. Yeah. But I didn't get heavy metal until John Byrne's The Last Galactus story.
Oh, get into that. I don't know
if you remember that or not. Yeah. It was. I don't remember exactly why it was there, but for some reason, it wasn't a Marvel book. But I was, I liked John Byrne's work, and I'm like, wait a minute. Why is he doing a Galactus story in heavy metal?
They could probably do more. I don't technically remember. It doesn't surprise me. John Byrne has always been one of those artists to me that's always done his own thing. Yeah. And I always felt, he likes superheroes, but when I saw his Next Men, when I saw him kind of like taking off that sort of leash of having continuity and history to worry about, then he just kind of, because he was going like, he did Babe, which I never read. Mm-hmm. Along with Next, and then there was something called Damage Incorporated, I think, that he did. But Next Men, and he came back. He actually came back and finished it years ago.
The Next Men.
He took him like what, 6-7 years. Then he finally IDW says, "You want to finish it?" He's like, "Yeah, okay." And I was happy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "He's gonna finish." I just seemed like I'll never see the end of this. But he did finish it. So
I don't think I knew he finished it. I remember him just kind of ending it, or the series ending. Eric said a great soundtrack to the heavy metal movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Those are great.
Yeah, the Mob Rules. I still have the image of the assault on that city. Whenever I hear Mob Rules, I still get those images.
That was back again. Like I said, I was watching all these weird underground 80s, like this watching Gandahar, which is done in the 80s, is a French animated movie I've never heard of, but like Rock and Roll and all those, they were just so different. There were so many, I think, and me and my friend Tom have talked about it, I think you got so many of those ideas during the 80s because you had the technology and stuff to start being able to do it easier than in the 70s and 60s, and people were working in a vacuum. So there was no internet or anything to influence these guys. They were just doing things that I like this stuff. We think this is cool. Maybe you think is cool. But nowadays, with so much influence from the outside to the internet and stuff, it's hard to get that sort of unique, independent ideas coming through. And I think that's one of the reasons you don't see it as much anymore. You see stuff like, okay, they're kind of influenced by this and that and this and that. But even like, when you see like Alien, you're like, what the hell? Well, Aliens, but even the design of it was like, that was Geiger. But yeah, you get some really unique stuff through that. I think it was this golden era of everybody working in the garage, I guess, making whatever they wanted and then bringing it to the world. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Cool. So what did you, Webba says, Marvel co-published a few graphic novels with heavy metal. No idea why though. Yeah. I don't, I can't imagine why either. I don't think they ever toyed around with buying them. I don't know. So from high school then, right? Yeah. This you were doing in high school. Did you go to college?
Yes. Strange enough, out of high school, I actually did go to the Joe Kuber School for just a semester for like.
Really?
So I am a kind of a weird alumni, and
so
then of course I was. Go ahead.
What years were you at the Kuber School?
I graduated in not 2004. Yeah, no, 1994. So I think I went 1996. Okay. Last one, 1995. Yeah. Because I missed it right when I got out of the high school. I just missed the window to get in, so I had to wait a year. And then I went there for about a month. And then being a kid, I got homesick and decided, well, I'm going to go back and go. And then I went back and went to a university here. But I remember my time at Kuber. I just had this really bad roommate. I think that was I kind of, and I remember this going to the school and all the guys were in this dorm and we're all choosing our roommates. And this guy, I took this room with this guy, and everyone just kind of had this sort of like, yeah, that guy's kind of, and everybody, because he was very intense, and he was just, I don't want to say, I don't remember his name, but I just remember he made my first time living abroad very hard, because you had this guy that was just, he would do his homework usually by splashing black ink on it, making like solid black with a little picture, and then he'd come in and I'd be working. He's like, "Well, I need to go to bed, so you need to turn off the light and go to bed." I'm like, "I'm still working," and he'd give me. It was just not a good working condition and stuff. But my other housemates, I even have a funny story about that. A few years ago, I came back, and there's this comic shop. There's about 2 or 3 of them called Things from Another World. Mm-hmm. They're owned by Dark Horse. Dark Horse started from them.
Okay, that's probably why I've heard of them.
Yeah, and I went in, and this guy was walking behind there, and he looks at me, and he's like, "Aaron," and I'm like, "Are you Ethan?" He's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Didn't we go to the Cuba school?" Now, I had been like almost close to 17, 18 years.
Wow.
And he's like asking me like, "What are you doing out here?" And I'm like, "I live here, dude. I mean, what are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm from here." And so it was kind of nice to see him, but it just sheer luck that he happened to come out here, and I ran into him. But he remembered me still.
So your former roommate, no names, before I ask the question, El Guapo says, "Popping in on all these great live streams. Hello, Roland and Aaron. Hello, El Guapo. Glad you joined us. Please, if you got some questions that you want to ask Aaron or me or C. Michael, who's kind of hidden below and doing the drawing for us, ask away. We're not afraid of questions. Bring them on. So your roommate and any other of your classmates at the time, are any of them drawing comics now?
Yes, I had a roommate that used to school me in the video game Street Fighter. Oh, his name was Damien. I can't remember his last name. He ended up drawing Batgirl.
Oh, okay.
For years, and then he drew Ghost Rider, and he has a very sort of like graffiti urban style. Fantastic artist. He was the only one I know of that I've heard that it's gone on. Ethan did not. He works at a comic shop. But he does his own stuff. He does a lot of D&D and stuff. Great stuff. He's really into like fantasy and stuff.
Cool.
But not too many students I remember. I do remember a few teachers. I remember this guy named Tex, who I guess he used to ink the old Prince Valiant comics.
Tex. Oh, okay. I was gonna say Texera.
Yeah, but yeah, not the same. He was
not the same guy.
Oh yeah, he must have been in his 70s.
Oh, okay. No, it's not.
Yeah, he used to ink the old Prince Valiant comic strips or whatever. Really funny guy. I remember that teacher. And then I did get to meet Joe Kubert. I was in his office, so I got to talk to him and stuff for a while. So great. And they're all super nice people down there.
Yeah. Wubba says maybe it's Damon Scott.
That's it. Damien Scott, yes.
There you go.
Thank you. Now, of course, if he ever hears this, he's going to be like, "Great, thanks, we were friends," until, that was it.
Until you forgot my name, right?
Yeah, poor guy. But, he used to, I still remember.
Him. How's that? Maybe he won't find, I won't hashtag him. Maybe he won't find the stream.
Oh, he'd probably give me a hard time if he did. Yeah, fantastic artist, but I still remember I beat him one round of Street Fighter, and he lost his mind, and ever since then, it was like his perfect streak against me was broken. And even though he would destroy me every other time, it was like this sort of like badge of honor. It was funny. But
a couple of new comments here. Curtis Fujita says, "Hey guys, just wanted to stop in and say hi. He's about to teach a class and so he has to go, and says, "Congrats, Aaron."
Thanks.
Yep. So go be Sifu, Curtis.
Yes.
And then Racy LeRae says, "I love Aaron's art and storylines. He's well-spoken and intelligent, but what I really want to know is how he keeps his wavy hair so beautiful. It's cool to see him live." So this must be somebody you know?
Yes, this is somebody I know. Yes. The wavy hair is just natural. It's just naturally there. Yeah. There's somebody I know. She's somebody who works in children's books, which I've been trying to get into. Yeah, so that's my other thing, is I go through a children's book critique group and trying to get into kids. And my kids' books look real different. And for years, I tried not to do kids' books. I never, I was in the comic books. I'm like, I don't want to do kids counting ABCs or whatever. And so when it finally came for me to do my kids' book, I'm like, I'm going to do this alien wildlife photographer. So I did this purple alien that photographs alien wildlife. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do something I want to do. And I did it. Yeah. And so, actually,
We'll get to that. I think. So at what point in time? Actually, Wubba says he's friends with Damon on Facebook.
Is he?
And
he is going to find out about
Wubba's going to tag him, right? Damon, you got talked about in the stream. Cassisi says he's a lover of all the cartoons you've named, from all the stuff, cartoons, comics that you've loved in the past. Oh, he's got a good question. He goes, what would you say is the common influence thread throughout what you make today?
Probably the common influence, as far as like influence from a comic or whatever, it's probably Saturday morning cartoons, just the general genre of that idea. As far as art styles, I was a big fan of Joe Mad, which you kind of don't really see him art. I liked him a lot. And then I was into Jim Lee.
Sure.
A lot of the classics and stuff there. But yeah, those are probably, it's really hard to pin down one influence, like one artist, like that's my go-to. But for some odd reason, that sort of Saturday morning cartoon look and feel keeps creeping back into my work. And so I'm like, okay, then I guess there's more to it than I thought. My friend has even said that. So he's like, yeah, you seem to stick to that. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, I would say that's not a terrible thing to be influenced by.
No, it's not.
So my next question then is, what comic book or at what point in time did you look at and did you read and say, this is what I want to do?
Doing that, strangely enough, I picked up an old Marvel Universe, the Universe Handbook, the guide.
Sure,
the handbook,
yeah, I remember those.
And I started drawing from those. And I'd been drawing before, but I started trying to draw from those. And that's what, and then later on, it was in 6th grade that I really got into drawing comic books. But my invigoration for comic books came from a kind of a weird place. When I think I was 12, my father passed away from cancer, and comic books kind of became my sort of thing to kind of focus on. And it just became kind of an obsession. Yeah. And but I do remember during that time really discovering my love of comics into that, and it kind of helped me through rough times. And so that's, I don't know. So that kind of, I know it's kind of a weird, most people, yeah. So that's when I started really drawing them. I started drawing comics in 6th grade, and I'd never quit. My mom still has comics in 6th grade that I drew, and I counted the other day. I think even though I'm just now starting to get published, I must have done over 500-600 pages of comic art already.
Wow, that's just a lot.
Yeah, I have stacks and stuff. So yeah, I have stacks and stacks of them that I've done, and I've.
Well, I mean, I have to say then though that's just kind of another confirmation where you always hear people talk about what you need to do in order to quote unquote make it, right? Yes. And that's literally just do it. And do it, 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 and do it again. Yeah. so many of my student writers, I think they expect to come in and write one thing and then boom, there it is. It's like, well, that's usually not the way it works.
No, unless you're a prodigy of some sort. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's not that it never works that way, but usually people have to spend years kind of perfecting their craft, whether it be writing or art, whatever, they have to spend years. And so the fact that you've got stacks upon stacks of pages, I think is kind of a testament to that very idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to bring them in, but I mean, I think there's one stack out there. There's another stack that big, and I have stuff stacked on just old. And it's fun going back, because I'll go back and be like, oh yeah, I remember doing this stuff. And I'm kind of the ultimate. I call myself like the ghetto artist, because I don't buy a lot of new tools. I draw on the back of, I'll tear the cardboard off the back of like drawing pads and draw on that and stuff. And I don't go out and buy a lot of art supplies. And every time people would give me art supplies, I would only use very few. I'm very much like, I'm a man of habit, so I know exactly what I want, what I need.
That's funny. Cassisi says inspiration. Yeah, for all your pages,
Yeah.
Yeah. Also says awesome to your influence and stuff. When you answered his question about that. Wubba says, I would have thought Sam Keith and Crumb were influences of yours.
Crumb, I like Sam Keith. The one thing I never could. Sam Keith was a really good artist, but he was also, to me, a little limiting in his poses. He always kind of did like certain, which I thought he was great. Again, he was another artist that once he was out of superheroes, I think he exploded.
Yeah,
there were certain artists that I think started because that's where you start out. Mike Mignola was another one. His stuff, but when he won the Hellboy, that was like, okay, you found your niche. That's it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, R. Crumb, I didn't discover R. Crumb till much later. And he was definitely different. I've watched documentaries. He's just an interesting guy. I think he's more interesting than his artwork.
Yeah. He's very much a 70s kind of guy. Whenever I hear someone mention Crumb, I think 70s, not like your generation, or whatever. Kind of thing,
By the time I would have discovered that they were like in collected compendiums of his work and stuff that he would have done. Yeah. I do remember seeing Fritz the Cat when I was a kid, though. So there's that.
What the heck? Really?
Yeah.
The movie?
When I was in high school or something, my friends had it or whatever.
Oh, wow. I've had students come up to me before, and, Full Sail is very much a PG-13 school for lots of reasons. Lots of, parents come in and look at stuff. And I've had students come up to me and say, hey, I heard of this Fritz the Cat thing. Can we watch that? I'm like, yeah, no, we can't do that.
No.
And, of course, the other students hear it. They're like, what? What's Fritz the Cat? What can't we watch? And I'm like, yeah, no. If you Google it, that's up to you. But I am not putting it up on the screen because I can get in trouble. It's like, no way. I didn't see Fritz the Cat until I was in college. And,
I think I was late high school something when my friends had it. Check this out. But that was that's how I found out most everything people had, because that was during the era when they would bootleg everything. They would record it off TV or something. Yeah. Some of my friends would have, here, watch this and watch that. And that was Akira and Fritz the Cat, and then Rock and Rule and all these weird. Well, strangely, I discovered a lot of these shows because we had HBO when I was a kid. And during my little sort of like block of cartoons after high school, sometimes you could switch to HBO and they would be showing these really weird, like Star Chaser, The Legend of Orin, which is a really weird one. Yeah. They did I think it was the Warriors of the Wind, which was actually Nausicaa, but they ripped it up and called it. So I just started watching all these really weird cartoons on HBO during the time. Like, what is this stuff? And so that's how I started discovering more of that stuff, Rock and Roll and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know anyone who would admit to watching a legal version of Akira.
Yeah.
I mean, just about everyone I know who's seen Akira, at least their first watching. Yeah, I saw a bootleg copy. Yeah.
It was somebody, it was, and I remember coming into the comic store and there was like the little VHS sitting in this little cabinet, like just like little piece of gold. Yeah. And they were like $30-$40 and stuff. I mean, it was expensive, but I mean, you plopped the cash down.
You could find them you could find a lot of those bootlegs at Comic Cons back then.
Mm-hmm. I remember the table of bootlegs.
Yeah. And they just, it was just like, no big deal.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the person who actually, I won't mention his name, but the person who actually sent me the VHS of Akira was a publisher. Publisher editor, and we had talked about it, and he said, this is the movie we talked about, and of course I don't know what you're talking about. So we had a little party in the dorms, which is where I was living at the time, and we all sat down and watched Akira. Of course, it was all in Japanese, and we couldn't understand a thing. And then the next thing he sent me was the Castle of Cagliostro.
Oh yeah.
And we watched that also in Japanese, and of course it. We were in college, so we had done some college things when we watched it. And man, we just laughed because we couldn't understand a word they said, but sometimes it would sound like they said English words.
Oh yeah, English words or whatever.
And of course, then we'd reverse it and listen. Oh, this is what it says right there. Yeah, he didn't say that.
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah, I think mine was subtitled. I think it was in Japanese. It was subtitled. My friend had it, and this he was really big into Akira. His older brother's in Akira. He's like, and I came in, and one day it was on. He was watching it, and never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah.
It was just, and of course that just. And I was always. I mean, I grew up being a metalhead or whatever. So the idea of like punk rockers or heavy metal people when sci-fi or superpowers was just like this cool, like this to me it was like the ultra coolness of everything. When Storm got a mohawk, I'm like, she's just looks like
rocker.
Yeah, she's a punk rocker. Yeah, there was just something about that was immediately attractive to me.
Yeah, I remember that. Cassisi says, Star Chase of the Legend of Orin was awesome.
Yeah. It was pretty much almost like it was heavily influenced by Star Wars, but it was pretty trippy. You haven't seen it? Go hunt it down. I mean, it's going to show its age, obviously, but it's worth it. The animation's great in it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of that, even a lot of that animation, Japanese animation, was really good back then.
It was. Now
a lot of their stories are really freaky. But the animation is good.
It took me years to finally figure out what Akira was about. And it wasn't until when I read the manga that the manga started piecing together things in the movie. I'm like, so that's what he was doing. But even most of the time, and every time I show anyone Akira, they'd be like, that looked fantastic. I have no idea what was going on.
It looks great, but I don't know. This dude's mad at him for something.
I don't know.
All right, so where were we? We were talking about at what point?
Oh, did I start drawing comics?
Yeah. What point did you start drawing, saying this is what I want to do?
It was in 6th grade, and I pretty much wanted to do it. And of course, my family at the time were like, "Well, come on, you can't be that." Because I mean, there was always like a small handful of people that did this, and but I kept doing it regardless, and kept. I used to irritate the hell out of my college professors because I got a degree in fine art.
Yeah, they hate that stuff, don't they?
Yeah, they're just like comic books, ew, and I was like fine art, ew, and so that didn't go. I learned a lot after the fact. After I left the fine arts building, I realized how much I had learned and had influenced me. The ability to. The idea of now is afterwards looking at comics, like you literally could do anything you want. And that's where that power was starting to open up to me. But I had classes with my teachers all the time. And, but I kept doing it. I irritated them. I'm sure they were happy to finally like, God, get rid of the comic guy. Go, shoo. So I was like, whatever.
I think that's one of the things that Full Sail thrives on is because our students are you. Our students are the kind who would have been chastised in traditional programs. Because they just want to teach. And for writing, I want to teach you how to write the great literary American novel.
Or something of that nature. Yes.
Yeah, it's like, no, dude, I want to write an action movie. I'm like, well, we don't do that here, right? And so I think this is a Full Sail. Excuse me. Full Sail is absolutely a kind of place I would have come, had I been aware or had I been around when I was looking for college. It was around, but the program was different.
It's like I hear all my last boss went to Full Sail. One of my and it's like up 24 hours or whatever. It's like a boot camp of art and stuff.
It is. Yeah.
And it really, I mean, back then, all these schools came out after. I remember they had the Art Institute in Portland, and it taught fine arts because I looked into them after high school. Well, no, we teach more fine arts and drawing and stuff. And then after I graduated college and came back, was living in Portland, then there were all these signs, graphic design, computer programming, video games, Art Institute. I'm like, seriously? Like literally 4 years during the time you okay, whatever. So that was irritating. I'm just like, I've always been one of these guys that have missed that window. Just missed these windows of opportunity. I've always been one step behind.
Well, I think too, it's a sign of how times change. Is that
definitely
I mean, my class is titled, writing for comics and graphic novels. You think they would have had a class like that 20 years ago? No way. No way.
Not a chance.
I remember the first people tell me, "Oh, this university has a graphic novel class," and what is it? It's the study of graphic novels. The teacher picks out 10 graphic novels and you read them, and then you critique them. Literary critique them, and I'm like, Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially for people, unless, it's like, well, if you come from a literary book reading background, you're only going to be able to critique half the graphic novel because you have no idea of the art of sequential storytelling, any of that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So you wanted to do it since 6th grade. So
yeah.
So obviously you've got 500 pages. So at what point in time did you say, this is the one that I'm going to make happen? Right. I mean, you had to go from just drawing for yourself,
right,
which is what you were doing early on. Nothing wrong with that. But at what point in time and what happened? Where were you and what was it that kind of turned from drawing to yourself to thinking, I'm going to draw and do something with this one?
I think that was probably. I think it came from the idea of seeing a graphic novel in a bookshelf. There was always something that was instilled to this day that's it's such a high. Seeing any book you get done in a book, you can put in a bookshelf. It's the simple things to me. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. But it was always, I wanted to, I think it was probably my 3rd book, because I started out doing, the superhero comic about rats in high school. I was in the Ninja Turtle, so everything was mutant animals to me.
Yeah.
And then in college, I did a comic strip for the newspaper, and then I did comic books there, and I did this sort of the flip books like you were doing. I did flip books of like the sci-fi and this cartoon.
Oh, cool!
And then that's when I really started to feel like I really want to do it was a book called Legends and Sagas, which I even actually have. I brought some of my old stuff, Legends Saga, and this isn't really a comic book. It was I had a comic book, but I can't find it right now. But this is like an old black and white, and it's a fantasy comic.
Okay,
and I did, and this was about 60 pages, and this is what I did in college. This is the comic that I pissed off all my professors with, because I would always draw this instead of doing homework.
The homework, yeah. So how did you? I noticed this kind of spiral bound there. Is that?
Yeah, that was Kinko's.
Yeah, so you just went down to Kinko's and now did you take it to the comic shop and try to sell it, or did you just sell it to your friends?
I did. The one that I actually tried to take it to the comic shop and sell was the Godlings. And this is a graphic. This is kind of weird. So this is my actual first attempt at Godlings, and I'm redoing it. So this is like,
is that a hardcover?
Yeah, and you can get these through Lulu. I have like 2 of these, and this is all black and white.
Wow.
This is why I started really taking it. When I first did these, they were like small ash cans. And that's when I started taking the comic shops, and they're really trying to sell them. And then I started going to a local convention in Portland called Second Genesis that was around for years, more like the flea market convention.
Sure, yeah.
And then the tables are $40 for a day, and I tried to sell them there, and I had a ton of fun. That's where I really started looking at it like, I really want to get this out there, whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, Gollins was such a big story for me that when I got it done, my art wasn't there yet. So a lot of people had trouble deciphering what was happening in my art. And of course, it always bummed me out because you put so much into it. And so that's why I was just like, you know what? After I was done with what I was doing lately, it's like, I'm just going to redo this, but I'm going to redo it in half the time. And I am doing it like half the time.
Wow. So wait, so all 12 issues of Godlings has been done before?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I'm redoing it. And this time it's done.
12 issues. That's quite an undertaking.
Yeah, so it'll be 12 this time again. But and it was originally black and white when I started this again. And then I talked to a guy named Bill McKay from Action Lab. And Bill, he was the nicest guy. And he said something about Action Lab, but it also just he's like, yeah, Action Lab won't look at anything black and white. Because he said, did you send him your Goblins? Like, yeah, it's like they won't look at anything black and white. And it like has to be color. I'm like, that simple, right? It's like, yeah, just add color. And then I started talking to other people like, yeah, add color and that's it. Like black and white comics don't sell, add color. And I did. I added color and then started selling it. And my book started just picking up sales immediately. I'm like, that was it. That was the secret ingredient, color. So apparently that was it. And
isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So that's when I started really picking
up. It's weird because so many comic creators actually like black and white comics.
Yes.
But you get outside of our little clique of creators, and a lot of people are like, "Ooh, no color? No, I don't want it."
Yeah. It's like they go, it's half finished, or it's not.
That,
it's not
yeah.
done yet.
Well, it's half finished, or it smacks as to them as amateurish or something like that. For lots of reasons. But I look at it and I go, man, what a shame. Tommy Florimonte says, "What's going on, Aaron and Roland?"
Hey, Tommy.
Hey, Tommy. We also have C. Michael, who's drawing for us here. We booted him off the screen, but he's still listening to us down there, and he's drawing, working on some reject stuff. So, if you got any, Tommy, if you got any hard questions for Aaron, fire away. This is good because Cece's got a good question. He says, "Did you have any mentors?"
No, I had teachers, but I never had any mentors. I wish when I hear it, like stories of artists who would like Frank Miller would talk a lot about having his mentor, and I can't remember who was his mentor. It wasn't Neil Adams. It's a famous comic artist that kind of became his mentor. I wish I had it, but I didn't. But just the idea of somebody taking me in, all this stuff is just trial and error and throwing it out there, and people like, I can't read what you're doing. I'm like, well, crap. Okay, I gotta go back and figure out what I'm doing wrong. So it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, when you put stuff out there and people like can't really figure out what's going on, don't really know it. It's hard when you put all that work, but that's how you learn, because nobody more honest than somebody who doesn't have any attachment to your work. They're like, I don't care, that's your thing. So,
yeah.
So.
That's when you got to realize that, okay, my feelings are hurt just a little bit, but they're not trying to hurt my feelings, so I need to get over myself and listen to what they're saying.
Yeah, and just really go back and honestly try to work on it and stuff. So but I think my stuff is pretty clear now since I added color. And I don't consider myself a good colorist, but everybody compliments me on my use of color. And I'm like, I didn't really start coloring my stuff till like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But it was like, your stuff in color is great. And I'm like, I just always feel it's my weakest part. But I don't know. I mean, I just feel this day, every time I approach coloring a page, I have to use the Adobe Cooler. I have to have guidelines to help, or I'll get the rainbow effect. So I really have to tone it down.
Yeah. Well, at least you don't get that really muddy look that so many modern Marvel and DCs have, that they're just all muddied up, and I'm like, I can't tell. Because CC says, I'm nervous about that as well, putting my stuff out there. That's awesome that you made it without a mentor. Yeah, and I'm going to say this because CC's been joining us several nights. I'm going to say this, CC, don't be nervous. I mean, I feel you, and I get you. But I've seen what you got, and like Aaron's saying, is you got to get it out there. You got to get it out there and get some responses. I know part of what school helps you do, or particularly Full Sail, is that you got these comments from your classmates, and sometimes you went, that was an idiotic thing to say.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know. And you think, well, okay, that classmate's an idiot. I'm just going to do my own thing anyway. But you have to realize that any criticism, and this is something that I actually took in really, really early, which is good. But any criticism you get represents a larger segment. So if one person tells you this thing, okay, yes, one person tells you, but they represent a segment of people who would share that similar opinion. So you can't just discard all opinions as stupid. Even though some of them are, you can't just you have to, and what you have to do is look for the root of because sometimes people don't know what to say. Sometimes when they say, "Oh, I can't," I can't follow what's going on. I'm trying to. What you were saying is I can't follow what's going on. Well, then figure out what is it that they mean that they can't follow. Right. What are you doing? Generally they're not trying to be mean, but you have to look down and say, okay, if they can't follow it, what is it? Are my balloons weird? Are my lines weird? Are my cameras weird? There's some germ of truth to the criticism usually. And I'll say this about Cassisi, he's going to be fine.
Yeah,
I've seen some of it. He's going to be just fine.
The big thing that was the difference was all my line widths were the same. So people had a hard time separating my backgrounds and objects from my
because there's no depth there.
There's no depth.
Yeah,
that's why I struggled. Exactly. Yeah. And It's hard. I mean but you know, you don't see it because it's incredibly hard because I look at my stuff and I'm like, well, I don't see what the problem is, but I'm not somebody else's eyes, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I literally had to take what they were telling me. It's like, okay, I know you're being truthful. And a lot of them would help me out. There were a few teacher and some others that would try to help me out or whatever. But that's why I started figuring out and started looking more in the inking and like, you know, different line ways. Oh, okay, that makes more sense to start breaking down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sometimes you just kind of have to dive in and do it. Wubba says manga is black and white, but it sells like hotcakes. American comics have to have color. Yeah, which is true. But you know, the thing that manga, now I don't read a whole lot of manga, but the thing I remember from manga is that when you open that cover, that first page is in color.
Yeah, they do the first few pages in color.
The first 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know how many, if there's a formula, but the first few pages are in color, and then they move to black and white. And I don't know if there's something in the mind that you see the color and then you just kind of forget that the rest of it's not in color. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah,
it does. I think I have seen a lot of manga over the years really cater to the female audience.
Oh yeah.
Because I used to, you know, mine was like, I like big, you know, the manga with big mecha and action, and you still find them, but not as much.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that they're obviously catering to, but I couldn't tell you why manga sells better in black and white. American comics don't. I can maybe tell you difference in genre. Maybe, you know, American comics are really tied around superhero type stuff. Even the different genres still have elements of. This was a complaint me and my friend Tom had. He'd be like, "Yeah, I read this new sci-fi comic," and I'm like, "What do you think?" He's like, "It's superheroes in space." Like even when they tried to write sci-fi, it was like, "Yeah, but there's sci-fi guys in space that have superpowers." Like, okay, yeah, we don't care.
Yeah.
And that's not bad. It's just so many American comic artists start out reading superheroes, training superheroes, that stuff bleeds into other genres, even if they try it.
Yes.
And it's not the fault of their own. It's just kind of what happens. Manga is just totally different. They have so many genres they started out with that they develop their own language in like shoujo, romantic manga has a different sort of language they talk about than like action manga and all that. So it's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Tommy's replying to it. He says, just put it out there, see what sticks, take it all in and grow.
Yeah.
And Wubba pretty much says the same thing. So, and I agree, so I'm one of these that when I hear an artist say they're doing sample pages, I'm drawing some Spider-Man or I'm drawing some Batman and they're doing sample pages. I'm sitting there thinking, why are you wasting your time?
Yeah,
Number one, Marvel's not going to hire you, right? They're just not, and neither is DC because you don't have any work. So instead of doing sample pages, make a comic book.
Right.
You make a comic book, get it done, get it out. So what if 10 people look at it? You've made a comic, you've got something, go make another one. Right. And eventually, when you get to the point where Marvel and DC will look at you, they'll notice you. They'll know you're there. You'll meet them at a convention and you'll be able to show them, hey, this is my comic book that 10 people saw. I would like to draw Batman. And then they will say, well, let me send you a Batman script and let's see what you can do. But until then, don't waste your time.
No. The sample page is the one thing that they want to prove is one, you can actually finish a comic book. Hugely important because
Very
so many
important.
guys, comic artists are like, I still see a lot of people like, hey, I got page 2 done. Woo! And I'm like, yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Don't pat yourself in the back yet. Yeah, you got 20 more. Keep going.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things. I don't think you will learn as much about comics until you try to convey your own ideas to sequential storytelling.
Yeah.
You can copy what's written in a script, but if you actually try to convey what's in your head to sequential storytelling, you're going to learn 1,000 times more.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to translate what's in your head and stuff. Because, you can do a script or whatever. And I've heard that more and more. People are saying, like, yeah, don't worry about doing sample pages or whatever. Make a comic, especially with the advent of the internet and so easy for it to get out. Just make it. Just go for it. Yeah.
Listen, it's never been an easier time than now to do your own thing. We got the digital printing, the print on demand, like Kablam, you can take and you can go print one copy there. You can print 10 copies. There's no minimum. When I was breaking in, you had a minimum print run of 3,000 copies. So it was tough. Dempsey Blackman, hey Dempsey says chasing the dream. That's right. Ovid has a comment about the manga. He said I would say the advantage manga has is the advantage that indie has, where they only have one writer for the series and they finish their series and move on to another story.
Yeah,
and I would say there's a lot of truth to that. Is that when you read a manga title, that this one person has been from the beginning to the end. I mean, it's kind of their baby. It's not a corporate thing where we see so much of. Batman's been written by how many different writers now?
Oh God,
Spider-Man the same. He's been written by so many different writers that.
Right.
It's hard to say. It would be hard to make the argument that, well, the Spider-Man we see today is still Stan Lee's vision. Well,
exactly.
I don't know about that.
No, I don't. And the thing is the one thing that I think the serialization of American comics, the continuous serialization, is good. It's got benefits because it gets people in the comics, they can jump in and it's always kind of there. But there's a few things that they kind of, just by the nature of it, bite themselves in the butt with. One, if you don't have an ending, you can't get that payoff. So if you start a story, the idea is you want to see how it ends. If it never ends, there's certain things like you can never kill Spider-Man because that just can't happen.
Right.
There's certain things. So even when they raise the stakes, you're like, it's never going to happen. It's still fun, but you really need that ending because that's why you're reading the story anyways. You want that eventual ending. If you don't get it,
it's the payoff.
Yeah, that's the payoff.
Dempsey says, great insight. He goes, I have my ideas written out. He says, what are the best websites to print out a comic? Excuse me. Now, I think there's two ideas there. I think there's actually printing a comic and then websites. Now, Aaron, if you don't mind, I'm going to take the print first. So you heard me mention Kablam earlier, but Kablam is a digital printer. Yes, they happen to be pals of ours, but they do fantastic work. They printed this comic, which is the second issue of Cat and Mouse. You can easily find them. Just look for Kablam Digital Printing, and you'll see there. If they'll ask you how many pages do you want to print, and if I recall, I think you can print a 24-page comic out with a full color with a color cover. I want to say it's about $287.
That sounds about
and then. Yeah, and then if you let them put an ad on the back, then you get a discount, which you can see. We have the ads on the back, so we go for the discounts. But the advantage is there, Dempsey, is that you can do one comic. If you've got your thing done, you can do one comic and get a proof copy and say, hey, this is my proof. Then you can look at it and then, oh no, this is not working on this page. I got to fix it. You can fix it. They'll make the changes, and then you can print out as many as you like. Whether that's 10 or whether that's 100 or whether that's 1,000, however many you want.
Yeah.
But for websites, I'm gonna defer to you here because I'm gonna you put Godlings online, right?
Webtoons. There are a lot of the Webtoons or web hosting sites are really catered towards manga, and nothing wrong with that. I think that's just a different generation of people. There are some, you will find American comics on there, but it's really hard. Like I haven't seen a web hosting site that has like a ton of superhero comics or Western. I can't quite figure out why, but you can on Cosmicology submit your stuff and sell it on Cosmicology for like low as 99 cents.
Yeah.
Now that's great and all, but again, like so many websites, the hardest thing is, advertising. Like, I mean, there's so many thousands of comics on these sites. Like the chance of you running across it is like the more people submit, the more higher the stakes grow that somebody's going to stumble upon it.
Yeah.
So it kind of and that's kind of the catch-22 of the internet. You have the ability to get everything out there, but the fact that everything is out there makes it incredibly hard for your stuff to be seen amongst everything else.
Right.
So that's always, I tend to know that when I sell stuff at either my signings or conventions, I sell much more. There's always an immediate, that customer dealing with the customer. It's very hard to sell stuff online. I've had that problem, but then I met other people who have a fantastic time selling online.
Yeah.
So I guess it's how you do it. So, and I'm not going to sit there and tell like I figured out their secret. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there are some people that sell great online. There was one gentleman. Oh, sorry. He's started really online, selling his stuff pretty regular now. But he's been putting his stuff online almost 4 or 5 years, probably longer, and now it's starting to hit. It takes a long time.
Yeah, you have to build up. I've only ever met one person who has said they've got digital sales that are worth anything, and I question his truthfulness. Most people I talk to are like, "Yeah, I don't really sell very much digitally."
Yeah,
excuse me. And I think for indie folks, it's kind of like what you said. Most people sell at a convention where you're one-on-one and people can actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Dempsey says, "Thanks. I found the website. I have a personal website What would be the best move to bring traffic?" Ooh, there's a question there.
I'm not even going to pretend to know, because I will write. I remember taking a class in social media, and she said the best way to get audience members is to give them value in your posts. And what she meant by that as an artist, like you would do, like, this is how you draw this, and this is how, like, they were talking about making the personal connection. Like, if you're, and I've heard this iterated over and over, if you make a personal connection with your audience, they will support your stuff, which I'd like, but it almost seems kind of like, in a way, saying like, well, no one's going to read my stuff unless they personally like me.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like, so you say my stuff just sucks. Like, yeah, your stuff's okay, but you're a nice guy.
But I like you, so I'm going to give you here's $5 for your book.
So, but I've heard both. Continuously, I would think any post you make, I usually put at the bottom, here's my website, here's my store. But again, getting people to click on it, and even think of your own. Like, if you go on social media, think how many things you scroll by and how many things you click on. Other people are doing the same thing. It's hard to catch somebody's attention. Like, what's the next post? And then you've lost them.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard.
Yeah. There's so much noise on the internet. It really is. Wubba says, and I have a tendency to agree with this. Wubba says, this is a second coming era of the indie scene. What do you think about that?
I do think so. And I think it's going to be healthy for the industry. To get that sort of injection of the ease of doing it and just seeing more genre. I think I've seen over the years that the amount of genres that are spreading out in the comics are becoming that like manga. Like when I go into comic stores, it's not just superheroes anymore. It's the old Western, sci-fi, fantasy. It's really, and that's what I'm liking. And a lot of that stuff is coming from independent writers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it is. And I think I'm not going to sit there. I don't know if the distribution company issues are going to be anything to cater towards that. But it could be. I don't know. Yeah. I think, strange enough, I think that COVID did have that sort of like people stuck at home and started discovering other things besides. And I think that's kind of helped in a weird way. Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
So
one of the things that you can't really just put your finger on, right?
Yeah.
Let me see. Gets a couple messages here. Oven says Manga got him into comics, specifically indie, because I like being able to start and catch up. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to do that today if you're if you want to go read Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. I had a friend who actually was like, I'm going to read Batman. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. She's like, no, I'm going to read Batman #1 on. I'm like, you don't have to do that. She's like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm like, look, you don't have enough years in your life to do this. Okay. Just look, all you need to know is he fights crime as a bat. Okay. That's it. But she was like, no, I'm going to read them all. And I'm like, good luck.
Yeah.
Let me know.
How long ago was this?
Oh God, a few years, about 2-3 years ago.
You should check in with her and ask her how far along.
See, she's doing if she even. Yeah. Because a lot of people are like, "Why gotta start at #1?" I'm like, "Yeah, #1 has nothing to do with what's happening today.
Yeah.
You're reading #1 and like, because Batman even carried a gun in the first issue. He doesn't do that anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, just hit the highlights, right? Hit the highlights and pick out the good books. Look for the recommended arcs. Oven says, I prefer buying in person at cons because I love the experience of meeting creators and seeing a smile on their face when they talk about their series. And I remember having that, conversation with Oven about that very thing. I met him, I guess, a year ago now, almost a year ago, not quite. Or was it 2 years ago, Oven? I think it was a year ago, because it was at the Infinity Con there down in Kissimmee, which I just found out Oven got canceled, which I'm sad about.
Oh.
Yep, it was going to be in August. And that was, I'm sitting here thinking, yes, I'm going to get to do a convention this year. It's going to be Infinity in August. And I just found out that it was canceled. So, yeah, I hate that. But I tend to agree with Oven, is that I like buying from creators at conventions too, because you get that personal experience. Eric Dotson said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's why I go to conventions just for independent stuff. I literally just, when I convention, I hang out all the time in Artist Alley.
Yeah.
Because I can, all the mainstream stuff. Yeah, I can buy that at a store. I know where to buy that.
Right.
The independent stuff, that's like shopping, because I go through and find all what's that? Who did that? Ooh, that's shopping for me, because that's the stuff I want to find, and you can't really find it. So it's almost like these conventions, like mini shopping malls for independent creators to go around and figure out all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't go there for mainstream stuff, because I know where to find Batman. I know where to find that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't go for the media people. It's like it's not that it wouldn't be cool meeting the famous actor or actress, but
I see him.
Yeah,
I go into the little area and I look at him like, oh, there he is, and there's the famous, and then I go back to my table. I don't know. I see him. I've seen lots of famous people. I've just never met him.
Yeah. I guess for me, I kind of think of like, well, this is my personal perspective here. It's kind of like, what's the point? I'm going to go up there and stand up there and get pay $60 for a picture to be taken with them, and along with the other 500 people who are doing the same thing. It's like, no, I'd rather stand and talk to a comic creator who, I can have a conversation with. Eric Dotson says, the best advice that I give out to the artists, writers, etc., when they come to my table is to finish it. Pages and ideas are great, but to actually finish it and hold it in your hands is a game changer. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Have it finished. And the one thing, seeing something to completion is very important, because then you're going to gauge how much time it takes you to actually complete something. And I think also, and I just lost my train of thought. Great. I was thinking of that. No, but yeah, now it's going to come back to me eventually. But yeah, the idea of and then putting it out there, getting it seen and read. And I guarantee you're not going to have everyone. I can tell you this is here. I'll even show you a book. And this was a weird book I did. And this is kind of my I tell people all the time when it comes to artists. I did this book. Let me see if I can get it here. It's called Deadlock. Okay, so the book is written like a kid's book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's more for an adult nature. It's about this cowboy from the Civil War who loses his soul in a poker game, and he has to go through all this Frankenstein, a werewolf, and stuff, and then he goes and eventually gets his soul back. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now I showed this book. I took it to Stumptown, which is an independent comic festival we had in Portland. And I took it to Jim Valentino.
Sure.
Nicest guy I ever met.
Yep.
Looked at it, and it was not in the book form. It was like, in a portfolio. I was still making it. He looked at it, and he's like, I'm going to have to pass on this. He's like, I wouldn't know how to sell this because it's so different than anything I've seen.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'll tell you this. He's like, if I saw it in the store, I'd buy it. I was like, oh, that was probably the nicest compliment. I went to another guy, and I didn't remember his name, worked for DC. He told me to go back to drawing school. So in a matter of like an hour, I had so vastly different. And I tell artists, like, if you can get that vastly different opinions, then you just got to like listen to the bad and take what you can and enjoy when people compliment your stuff. Just put it out there.
Yeah.
I've seen wildly different takes on my art, and I was like, okay. And the other guy was just like, yeah, I go back to drawing school. And I'm like, this is really weird. I walked away that day just like, I don't know what to make of critiques anymore. They're so different.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So
they're tough. Yeah. They really are. Getting critiques at a convention is tough. It's tough to give them, but it's also tough, to be in that receiving position, to have so many different people, look over and potentially shred your work,
Yeah. And
Now,
it's, I've had most people, if they don't have anything nice to say, won't say, will not
right.
say anything. I've never had anybody convention. No one's ever come up and like, you suck and this sucks or whatever. Very rarely. People aren't like that. They're either going to praise it or just going to be like, okay, and walk on by. So, yeah, that's pretty much there.
So, so what was your first published work?
My first published work was actually a kid's book through Action Lab Comics, and that is.
So how did you hook up a kid's book with Action Lab Comics?
Go figure, huh? So I'll show you this is the book, and he's like, it's got the reflection. Let me show inside pages out the reflection, and it's written like a wildlife journal. And he's like an alien. He's a little purple wildlife photographer, and he goes around and takes pictures of alien wildlife, and the whole book is just like a journal.
Okay.
And I finished the book because that was the other thing. I went up to the publisher with the book completely finished. Like, okay. And I showed him my goblins at the time too. They didn't really like the goblins, but they looked at the book, and the very first question he asked, it was like, is this finished? I'm like, yes. He's like, send this to us. The reason it worked was because I have read many a time there's a lot of comic book companies trying to break a little bit into the kids market because they're trying to diversify their publishing. Right. So I knew this. My comic book's got a comic book style. I hunted down Action Lab. I knew they did kids book, and they were at a convention in Portland. So I went and showed it to him, and that's how I did it. Now, why did my kids book get in and my comic books were? I have no idea. My friend said, he's like, I think your stuff's just geared more towards a kid's book. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Which is, sometimes it's frustrating because I got a lot of really cool, like, action-packed. I'd like to take a stab at a horror comic, but that just may never work, but it's just like, okay. And but yeah, that's what it was. And again, they were trying to branch into kids books, and they still are. And so to them it was like, yeah. And I sent it to them, and I got the letter. It was weird. The owner of the company, he's like, yeah, I let my 7-year-old read it. She loved it, so you win. And that was it. I was like, okay. Wow. And then I did another one. I just published a second one with them last year, and I can hold that up. And this is the Miranda book, and she is a tour guide who takes this family, the Deedles, on a tour of this fantasy land, and that is like all these huge pictures and all that. So yeah, that's my second one. So that's my actual published work, and then my Godlings is self-published. I actually sent my Godlings into him, and they passed. And I don't think a lot of companies pass my Godlings because they don't like it. I think the fact that it's 12 issues, and I understand. It's like, it's 12 issues. That's a lot to take a chance on. So I'm like, okay, then it'll be mine. It'll be my my project. I'll do it. But my next project, which I'm in the middle of writing, will be 4 issues. So I'm like, okay, I'll make it 4 issues. But
I don't know if you that kind of you caught on to the whole Silverline thing. It's like, we want 3 and 4 issue miniseries because it's easy. It's easier to kind of commit to something, and if it doesn't work, I said, well, we commit to 3 more issues or 2 more issues or whatever to finish it. Because I just think unfinished projects just they bother me.
Yeah,
and I realize sometimes it is what it is. But and if something works, then you just come back and you do more.
Right.
See, Michael said, "Don't show Neil Adams your portfolio."
What?
It said, "Don't show Neil Adams."
Oh, why? Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, I've heard he could be incredibly harsh.
Yeah. He'll rip you on. And then Eric Dotson says, thick skin helps.
Oh yeah. I think I got a lot of thick skin working in my the way I also learned it is I do motion graphics, basically graphic design, but they're videos that move, and I've been doing it for like 8 years. And when you work with a lot of other clients, I just break down, like, I'm trying to do a product for them. Like, I'm working for them. So I never, like, if they want changes or stuff, that was fine. That kind of translated into my comic work.
Yeah.
Where people, I don't like your stuff or whatever. I was always just like, well, yeah, but there's like a lot of people who will like my stuff. So,
yeah.
You never, if you're going in there thinking like you're going to get universal praise, you need to let go of that right away.
Yeah. and the trick and the secret is, being patient and persistent enough to let your work find its audience,
Yes.
and let the audience find you.
Yeah, in fact, the next story I'm writing is much more mainstream, like a kid's comic. So my Goblins is kind of my one-off, and then I'm going. And the Goblins is when it's done. That's my big thing. Then I'm back to much smaller stuff for the foreseeable future. I'm not doing anything that big again. But
that's quite an undertaking. 12 issues is a lot.
It is quite an undertaking, and it's something. But hopefully, when other stuff like my kids' book and stuff for draw, that's why I'm hosting it online and stuff. And it is a different take. My other stuff is much more, I think, kid friendly. I mean, I think a lot of times when they see my Goblins, like, well, this is blue dude and this lady with like rock feet. What the hell's going on? That stuff I like. I mean, if I was in the comic store and stuff, like, I would totally be drawn to that. But I know a lot of people like, yeah, I don't really get what's going on. But once they read it, I think once they read it, it makes sense. I mean, it's not like esoteric or whatever. But
so the action lab thing, when did that come out? The first one.
The first one came out in 2000. I think it was 16, but it might have been 17.
Okay.
And then it was the beginning of last year. It was last Christmas or whatever is when the last one came out. And I was literally getting ready. I was like calling up bookstores, getting book signings. I was going to do like a book signing at Barnes and Nobles, getting story times and all this stuff. And COVID hit and just boom, like a week or two after my book was launched. It just,
no.
Yes. So after the COVID stuff has come, then I'll start pushing out more and more. But it just hit. And I was like, oh, well, the book, it's there. It'll be there when it's all done. So
I have to ask, because I know you drew for about 60 pages in the late 90s.
Yeah.
That didn't get published. So what did you do between that point in time and 2016? And for those of you who didn't quite make it with me, we're talking about Friar Rush, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a bit.
I actually, after Friar Rush, I started the first pass at Godlings, and that took me 7 years to do that, doing other things and stuff. I did a comic strip on the side, and then after that, I did the kids' book. I think right after, I'm trying to look at myself. Yeah, I did the kids' book after that. And it was such a weird idea because the idea from a kid's book came from a comic that my friend Tom is writing for a school assignment. It's like me, it was like him and us in the future. And it's like, he's like, what do you want to be? And I was like, well, it'd be cool to be like, go study alien wildlife. And the idea was really a germination from a book called Expedition by Wayne Barlow. And you can still find this book out there. Wayne Barlow's a naturalist sci-fi painter. He's fantastic. I mean, he's done a lot of designs for visual effects or whatever. And so anybody who's into any sci-fi painting, you usually like Wayne Barlow. Yeah, he's big in that.
Okay, cool.
And so he's like, what do you want to be? And it's like, I'd be cool to go around and be like this photographer that photographs alien wildlife. And the idea just always stuck in my head. Like, wouldn't it be cool to do something with that? I mean, it's so different. And I kept trying to get my friend like, Tom, you should do something like this. You should do. And he never did. And I'm like, you know what? And then for the kids' book, I'm like, wouldn't it be weird if it was just like designing all these crazy creatures like Pokemon or whatever, but having this one guy, this wildlife photographer, tying that together.
Yeah.
Like it's a journal. And that's when and then I went from there. And like I said, I never wanted to do kids' books. And I sent my book to a few children's book agents and they never turned it down. But Action Lab, since it was comic book related, was like, yeah, totally, we get this. And they picked up on. But I hunted them down on purpose. I knew exactly who I was looking for. Yeah. So
that's called market research.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Wubba said Neil Adams gives great advice though. Super harsh, but worth it.
Yeah, he is. I think him is, since I usually don't draw a lot of superhero stuff, I don't know. I mean, I would take the advice and I would be like, yeah, I don't draw what you draw. But Neil Adams is a monster. It would be kind of like Neil Adams trying to explain the Burning Rights and how he should draw Batman. Or it's like he's a horror artist to a superhero. So there are different types of artist genres and stuff.
Yeah.
But
So let's backtrack a little bit. So how did you? So Friar Rush, which is kickstarting right now,
right? Yes.
Let's put the Kickstarter thing back up there. So this was done several years ago. So
yeah, 1999, 2000, I think.
I was going to say, I think probably 99, 2000.
Yeah.
What? I mean, this is quite a few years ago. What memories do you have of the whole experience with that?
That was the funnest thing. I was cool. It was the first working off of your script, which I've done, here and there, but making that. I actually remember inking some other pages you gave me, like on the bed in my dorm room. Like I actually didn't have a table, so I was actually on the bed. I think I was moving in. Yeah, getting them done. And but I remember it was, Fire Rush. I did so many interesting designs, that sort of manga with the weird hair. And I wasn't sure if you were going to go for it, because I do actually remember there was one little picture, and you may remember this, of Seraph, completely redesigned in a realistic fashion that was in an ad in back of one of your books. I don't know if you remember this.
Yes.
Yeah, she had like this sort of like leather-clad outfit on. And I remember, and I thought like, well, should I draw like that? And I remember you going like,
do you mean like this?
Yes, that one right there. And so I remember looking at that going, well, I don't, and you were like, I remember you were like, no, we want your style. And I was like, okay. And that's when I started going into all like my weird design stuff. And I remember you giving me a lot of freedom in that book, more than most. And that's what I had so much fun with it. And I really liked the story about again, I always wanted to try my hand at a horror book, and that was, semi-horror. So I was like, that's cool. It's like I said, it's been weird to look at the book now and try to think back, like, why did I design that like that? But I remember I gave one of the characters in the second issue like a Prowler. It was the Prowler cars. I can't remember, was it Plymouth or who made the Prowlers? They were like the old Roadsters, but they're like a high-tech version of the Roadster. I can't remember who made them. I actually drew that into the second issue, so you guys get to see that. And I remember looking back at that going, why would I draw that? And so it's jogging my memory of why my training my thought why I was doing this.
Yeah. Now, what about when when you were notified, or however, I can't even remember how the information was communicated to you that oh well, sorry, it's not going to happen. What were do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, I remember just kind of being like, disappointed, but I remember you saying like, in the future if it comes about, and I just remembered like going like, well, it's done, it's out there. It's a learning experience. I mean, I never ever regretted doing it. The fact that it's seeing the light of day is cool. I mean, it's but I mean, I would never think something for 20 years ago would all of a sudden impact my life today. Not in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But it was interesting at that time. Yeah, sure, I was a little disappointed, but I was one of these guys that was so into my own stuff that I'm like, oh, well, I'm just gonna do my own stuff and keep going. I was one of these guys that I took things in stride, and instead of just being defeated, I was like, well, on to the next thing. I don't think you can talk to most of my friends, and they don't remember a time when I wasn't working on something in some manner, like all the time.
And I think that's pretty clear in the fact that you went on and did 12 issues of Godlings, and now are redoing them again.
Yeah, so
as well as then added children's books and
doing all that. And I think that I want to work on some other people's stuff, but one of the reasons why I have a hard time working with other people is I have a very kind of strict work ethic. I mean, I work every day, and if somebody can't keep up with me, I'm just going to do it myself and pass you by. I have a very hard time waiting on stuff because I'm excited to see it done. I want to get it done. This is really cool. I'm really excited. So if I'm calling up and some guy's like, nah, I'm playing video games, I don't want it. It's like, okay, I'm going to do it myself. Like, I'll go ahead. And that's always kind of been my number one hindrance, working with other people. But I still want to attempt to work at it. I mean, there's lots of artists out there that have the same work ethic. But I work every day, like 5 or 6 hours every day on my stuff. And it's right now I'm working freelance and stuff, and I have opportunities, more time to work on it. But it's definitely I don't slack off and work on it. I should know because I have a stack of video games that I bought. Like, I'd like to play those, but I always feel like I should be working, so I work.
Yeah. I have kind of a small stack. We like to watch movies, so I've got a small stack of movies that are still wrapped up. I'm like, I'm gonna watch that. I really want to watch that. You know, I bought it. I'm gonna watch it.
I'm probably the only artist that has figured out how to actually. I know this sounds stupid. I figured out how to actually work on my comic and play video games at the same time. It is It is. I play a lot of single player games, and during the load screens, and when they're doing the talking, I'm drawing. And then I play the game, and then when they start talking again, I'm going back and drawing. So yeah, I've actually been able to get some stuff done, both of it. But it's only when I'm doing the finished pencils. If I'm creating, no. But if I'm just like doing finished pencils or inks or whatever, that's rote work. And so yeah, people like, you've been able to do this. I'm like, yeah, they talk a lot in modern video games. And it's never very exciting. It's like a bunch of dudes standing around talking. Like, yeah, I've seen that before. I can just listen. Draw.
Yes, I just want to play, dude. Get out,
yeah, I just want to play.
Yeah. Oh shoot, I had the question. Oh yeah, you're talking about speed. You know, one of the things that always kind of amazes me is the variety of different speeds from different artists, and you know, I mean, everybody, particularly at a you know, an outfit like Silverline, we just kind of have to do what we can do, you know.
Right.
I teach during the day, or well, sometimes it's at night too, but I teach. That's my full-time job, and you know, that always takes precedence for me. And so other people do other things, and this is kind of why we are on the schedule that we're on.
Right.
But you know, got a guy like Rob Davis, right, who did Twilight Grim. I got an email from him yesterday. He says, "Hey, I'm finishing up the inks on issue 2. Can I have the script for number 3?" And I'm like, what? I still Twilight Grim 1? What? You know? And you know, I'm not calling out any names or anything, but some of the other books are like, hey, we're still trying to get these things done, you know. And it's like really impressive to see that, you know, there are guys out there that would just work and get it done, you know. And I know there's a lot of extenuating circumstances. I get that.
Oh yeah. It's an addiction, man. I don't know. I mean, I love drawing this, and I'm so into the process that a lot of times when I finish with something, I'll get excited about it for a few days, but I'm like, okay, I'm done with that now. Now I got new stuff to do. Now I'm excited, and so I try to always like promote, but like every time, like, because you ask any artist, like, what you most excited about? What I'm doing right now. And but I go from one project, then I take like a week off and I go to the next. I guess it is an addiction for me. I've loved doing it. I love studying the idea of words and art. That's why I did that cowboy book that's written like a kid's book, because I was like, well, could you actually do adult stories in a kid's book format? Could you just literally use words and pictures instead of sequential art and I was just experimenting to see, like, could you do this? Yeah. Which, you know, of course that stuff can't always sell, but I learned a lot doing it. And I still love that book. And, you know, I don't know.
Now, have you ever read anything like Diary of a Wimpy Kid?
No, but I've seen it. I actually would like to read it. I think it's because part of it is like written like a book, and part of it's like comic book. Yeah. If you want
to read something that's similar to that, but it's a slightly for a slightly older group, you should look up the Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie.
Yeah, I definitely looked that up.
Really good. And it's in the same sort of basic format, and it's one of these weird combinations where it's not an illustrated novel, right? Because an illustrated novels like the Hardy Boys, you know, you got text and you got a picture that illustrates something from the novel. This is one of those where, you know, I would argue if you remove the illustrations from the books, like Diver Wimpy Kid, you would miss something. There'd be something missing. Yeah, you know. And you can't remove the text because the pictures aren't enough to tell the story. And so it really is this kind of weird amalgamation of prose and artwork that kind of make it work. It's not a comic book, and it's not an illustrated book, and I really don't know what to call it. But it's the Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. You should look that up.
Yeah, I definitely looked at. Yeah. I love reading stuff, anything that experiments with it, because that's the one thing that I learned in fine arts. Fine arts is all about experimentation and ideas, and I started. And this is what I found out, and nothing against Art Institute students. I love y'all. Y'all great, but I had this sort of analogy after I got out of fine art school, and then I took 2 years and studied 3D modeling for a while, and then illustration at the Art Institute for about 2 years. And I figured out that my fine art school was the school of all the ideas, and the Art Institute was a school of no ideas. And the reason I say that is because every time I went to the Art Institute and saw somebody drawing, what are you drawing? Dragon Ball Z stuff, Disney stuff. It was always trying to be like, I want to work for Disney. I want to work for this. So all my work has to look like this, and has to be, and it's all these constraints. And you go to the fine art school, and they're like, no, just do whatever you want. The idea. And so I was always like, man, if you could take the idea energy of fine arts and inject that into some of the social, like the sort of commercial art, you can get some really cool stuff. And that's why I'm kind of looking for that marriage. Not a lot of artists are successful with that marriage, but you get some really fascinating ideas that people are able to pull it off.
Yeah.
So,
very cool. Very cool. Well, let's bring C. Michael back in, and let's talk about the Kickstarter for just a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna catch him by surprise and pop him in. What's up, C. Michael? We catch you. Hey, all right.
He's got his shirt on. Win-win.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Eric Dotson said, as far as inking, I may be slow, but I'm not real fast.
You'll just keep doing it. Pretty soon you'll pick up speed.
Yeah. So we are at 70, I think 70% with this. I can't do the kind of math. There's five. There's, let's see, 600.
Like $610.
$610, I think, is what we have left to go. And this is my screen here. So yeah, it's gonna be a flip book, like the one I just had in my hands. What did I do with it? It's gonna be a flip book similar to the to this, so that you've got one story on one side, right, and then you flip it over, and it's gonna have the other story on the other side.
Yeah.
This flip book is exclusive to the Kickstarter, so this is the only way that you'll be able to get the flip book. Once we release them to stores, they'll be individual. But we think this is kind of a cool collectible thing. The thing about this, the thing I have to say about this Kickstarter is there is so much original art. I'm just going to scroll. Oh, so we got the several covers here too, right? We've got the Kickstarter exclusive covers. This is the Bloodline exclusive cover by Stephen Butler. And this is the Friar Rush exclusive cover by Aaron. And did Becca ink that? I think.
I think she.
Yeah. And then I'm sorry, Becca colored that.
It was John.
John Martin inked it. Yeah.
John Martin. Yeah.
And then we've got the standard versions here. This is what you'll see us having we'll have at the conventions with us. Then we've got retro versions, and retro versions are very much black and white books. They're throwbacks to comics, just like we did them in the 80s, right? Even got the retro Silverline logo on there. And then we have variant covers. This is the first time we've ever really had variant covers as part of the Kickstarter itself. So Alex Gallimore had been on me a little bit to try to do that. So we're trying that out, see how that works. My problem has always been kind of how do I make that fit in within the campaign. And then there's some this is just some artwork from the book itself. This is from Bloodline.
All right.
So pencils by Rob Sachetto and inks by Terry Pallett. Terry Pallett's an industry vet for many years, and colored by Jeremy Kahn.
Strange enough, his style reminds me a lot of Norm Brayfogle. Do you remember him?
I do remember him. Yep.
I like Norm Bray. That's why I like his stuff. His stuff reminds me of his.
Yeah. I think it's very good. Very good stuff. And then of course we got Friar Rush pages by Aaron, and then inked by John Martin and colored by Rebecca Winslow. So this is just some interiors. I think this was the page that went quickly, wasn't it? This is
I kind of figured that, and but it's funny because that was like the big, and I actually still use that page on my website. I don't know. I guess I was on mark that. I still look at that picture. I'm like, that was really good. So I don't know. Even pictures are old. You look back and be like, I was on fire then.
Yeah. So if you're like, you know what, I don't have a whole lot of money, but I want to help you guys out. $8 gets you the PDF of both of them, so you can still read the books. If you want to just get the double feature, you just say, I don't want a digital thing. I don't have a whole lot of money still, but I want the print. Then $18 will get you the flip book, which gets you the exclusive covers of both books. And when we say exclusive covers, that means that you'll never be able to find that art on a cover of these comics again. We might make them into a print because the art, if the art's good and popular and people want it, we might turn it into a print, but you'll never see it on a comic book again. That's why it's an exclusive cover, right? And then you've got the flippy floppies. This is where folks are like, I kind of like to have the flip books, but I really kind of like the singles too. So Flippy Floppy gets you the Kickstarter exclusive cover for the flip books, and then you get the standard covers for the singles or the floppies, right? And then the retro indie versions, you get everything that you got here, right? You got these two things, but then you get the black and white books. And then we have the variant covers, which you get the retro books, the standard covers, the flip book, and you get the variant covers. And we added this one because someone told me once before, like, I want a copy of everything I can possibly get. I'm like, okay. So you can get the flip book with the Kickstarter exclusive covers. You can get the standard covers. You can get, and these may end up being more rare than anything, you can get the Kickstarter exclusive cover on the singles, right? So you're going to be able to get that on the singles only as part of the completist or any of the art rewards. And then, of course, you get all the covers. And then we've got a few of these. I don't know how many of these we have left. We only have 6 of them. But this is everything that you get, the completist set, but you get a full set of Marauder, which is a miniseries written by Bloodline and Fire Rush writer Sid Williams. By the way, Rebecca Winslow is currently coloring this, so when she's done, we'll be able to bring it out as a trade. Eric Dotson said, "Mine. He's the one who grabbed that page." Yeah. So then we've got Errand Commissions, and I don't think there's any of these left, are there? Let me look here and see. Right. There's one more left. So if you want a commission from Aaron, you better act quickly because there's only one left. And this is basically the kind of thing that you get from Aaron if you saw him at a convention. Since we're not having conventions, this is a great opportunity to get a piece of original art. He'll do whatever character you want. You can see Bruce Lee there, and I guess that's I
was just making up. Yeah, okay. Troll. He was like a giant troll that was like basically a lumberjack, but he's cutting down trees.
Yeah,
small. Paul Bunyan.
Oh, like that works. Yeah, that works. So yeah, there's only one of those left. Then you got some pinups here that Aaron. These are brand new that he did just for the Kickstarter. And then there's this one with the cast. Yes. Then you've got this one with Fire Rush, which I like. I'm sitting there thinking, man, we should probably color that one too, right? And then another one with the Seraph and the Dragon. That seems to be a popular scene. Then we got some inked pages. John Martin has some inked pages available. Page 1 is available. Oh, page 6 is gone. Page 10 is available. And then we've got the original pencils for all of these pages for Fire Rush 1. Now, I haven't gone in and updated it.
Yeah, 20 was gone.
20 was gone. So you can see, and someone said, if you want to see the image better, all you got to do is do that and kind of scroll in on that puppy, right? Those are the resolution is pretty good for all of them. So, messed it up somehow. What did I do? Oh well. So you can do that. You can scroll in and look at that. And as you just heard Aaron talk, some of this brings back memories to him.
Oh yeah.
And then also the same kind of the original art for the variant cover is available. This is the original pencils by John Martin. And then we got a whole bunch of the original art from Bloodline. And this is penciled and inked, penciled by Rob Sachetto, and then inked by Terry Pallett. And you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Now, I was quick to note here. Note the original page may be different as digital editing was done on many of the pages. And as a way of clarification, what we did is we went in and edited a lot of the text. So some of this text may not be on the actual original pages. It may not exist on the pages because we added that in digitally. And when I was making this, I didn't go and make a separate scan of the original art. And then, of course, I think this one's already gone too. The exclusive cover by Stephen Butler, I think, is gone. Yep, it's already gone. So I gotta fix that because it went pretty quickly. So yeah, there's lots of stuff there. Two fantastic stories. Bloodline is a one shot. It's means it's one and done. You pick up this story, you start beginning, middle, and end. It's an adaptation of the short story by Sid Williams and Robert Pettit. Short story that was published in Under the Fang, a horror anthology. And then Friar Rush. Oh, it's a story of a gang of folks trying to stop the Bloodline, and the Bloodline is a train that delivers illegal blood to vampires. And so it's like a drug running vampires running blood to the vampires, and they got to stop it. They got to put a stop to it. And then Friar Rush is a story of Elvin says he's got everything here except for the original art, and I might upgrade. Never been a better time, Owen. There's a lot of good pages here, and there's still the one Aaron commission that's available. So yeah, there's just a lot of good art remaining here, and we've never had this much art, original art on a Kickstarter yet. I personally find it kind of exciting. But the story of Friar Rush is essentially the story of Friar Rush, who is that the demon that we're seeing there with the kind of the upside down horns, who works to corrupt men and women of the cloth. And this is the story of Jake McGlover, who's a news reporter telling that story of Friar Rush. So lots of cool stuff happening in here. Both of them are completely done. It's the Silverline way. We make sure that the books are finished so that you don't have to wait too long to get your content. As we know that there are some Kickstarters and some Indiegogos that people have been waiting months and months and months for. Yeah, that's not going to be us. That's not who we want to be. We have a few, and I have them over here. We have like 6 that haven't been delivered from Kalis. That's because I'm waiting for art from Argentina, and Argentina is closed because of the plague. So as soon as their post offices reopen, he's going to mail it to me, and I'll have that. But yeah, so and as you can see, for those of you who got the last one, this is the proof copy here of Twilight Grim and Divinity. And my printer, I haven't heard from my printer today, but they told me they are expecting more paper in either today or tomorrow, and then I should have finished books. Should have them by the end of the week. So everything is jamming along. Well, Aaron, did I not ask anything that you're like, man, he didn't ask that? I really wish he'd asked that.
No, I can babble on about stuff for hours. So, I'm not sure if there's anything. No, not that I can think of. No, like I said, I think what they did with my art, with the color and stuff looks fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see the next 2 issues done and colored. Yeah, there's some really cool, because I got to actually look at the issue 2 and 3. It's been a while, and I'm like, this is gonna look really cool colored. Yeah. So yeah, some exciting stuff. So yeah, if you like horror, at all and stuff, rock and roll kind of like it's just, I don't know, it's a cool comic. I like that when I originally got the story, and I still like it now. I think it's a cool comic.
Yeah.
So cool. And the Bloodline, I'm looking forward to. I definitely want to read that and stuff.
Yeah. So, I think so too. And I will say that those moments of pride for an editor is when you kind of look at something, you're like, that looks good. That's a good team that's been assembled. The final product is like, that looks really good. So yeah, I'm happy about that. And I'm also happy about the stuff that C. Michael here is doing. So it's cool to see it come to life as we stream. I don't know if I see you, but I don't know if you've got your audio on. You want to say anything?
No, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for everything we got coming up. So
yep.
Yeah, I like your style. I like cartoon styles. It's some of my favorites. So I'm excited to see where this book is going.
It's really fun. I can't, when I get that script, I can't wait to dig into it.
And it's not finished yet. It's a good chunk done. I've got the skeleton done. So
but you can't be showing stuff like that. And I mean, come on, you got you can't be getting people excited about showing stuff like this.
Well, yeah, you can. That's exciting to see, right? It's artwork.
Oh that's
but if I just throw up pages of text, they're gonna go. Well, actually, you know what they'll do? They'll try to go. Let me zoom in on that, see what that says, right? Yeah. But just looking at pages of text, that's boring. No, I'm excited because I saw what C. Michael was doing before, and I'm jacked to see. I mean, all the designs he's done. I'm jacked to see this come to life, and I'm excited. And the cool thing about us doing these streams is we get to see these things happen. Unfortunately, Aaron, it's one of the kind of the it's a tiny regret. So don't say, oh man, Roland's disappointed. Oh, we don't get to see Fry Rush take shape from you because it's done. But we get to see we're gonna get to watch C. Michael as he's working on the pencils, and then of course Becca is streaming, so we're gonna get to see the inks take shape, and it's just, to me, it's kind of exciting to watch the whole process come through, and then ultimately say, all right, dudes, we got a Kickstarter. You've watched it over the last couple of months. It's ready. Come help us make it a reality now.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I like the stuff you're doing. I like all the stuff so far that's all Peter doing with the Fury and the Trumps, both because looking really good.
Yeah.
The stuff that Tommy's been sending in. He keeps showing me up. I mean, he keeps sending in stuff, and I'm like, look, you guys got to suck a little bit more so I can look. You guys can't be doing this all the time.
Well, Tommy and I were talking about it, and part of what we talk about, what we kind of like, is that because it has really developed into very much a team / family kind of feel, and it's kind of it's that friendly competitiveness with your brother. It's like,
oh yeah,
man, definitely. That looks good. I gotta up my game a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
Tommy says, great show, great talk, great art, and he says, thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome, Tommy.
Yeah. But I like that. I do like the camaraderie that takes place in the streams. And hopefully we'll, as we, like we said before, just got to keep the pace, keep it going. Yeah. And I think we'll, if we can get back to conventions where we can get to meeting people again, I think we're going to be able to draw more eyes. Right now it's kind of, we're kind of screaming into the wind.
But look how much stuff we're going to have done when conventions finally get going.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm already eyeing next summer for the potential retail releases to get into the distribution pipeline. Got to get a couple more things done before I can really say, okay, now it's time. But I'm already, I can feel a couple of them getting to that point, and I'm already kind of eyeing, Diamond to see, okay, what's it going to look like for us? Tommy says he's just trying to help everyone do their best. Yeah, with that sort of friendly competition, and I absolutely agree. And Kasisi said, agreed, great advice, admire your hard work.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we're going to call it a night, guys. See, Michael, thank you so very much for
thanks for drawing.
Letting us watch you work on this while we yak. Aaron, thanks for spilling your guts, letting us know.
Always a pleasure.
How you got from point A to point here.
Yeah. Always fun to have these conversations in streaming or otherwise. Even on the live streams, all the other people, just as me and you, and always fun. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, well, we're going to remember we're going to close off, and we always say at the end of our streams, let me get my little thing here. Oh, they can't see me. I gotta. No. I gotta do this. How to do this? There we go. Yeah, make my Silverline.
And there you go.
Now to add to the stream here, we're gonna play out the bumper, and we're gonna call it a night.
Sounds good.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.